Hello, I'm just checking that we are all set and ready to go. Bear with me. Da, da, da. Pressing the wrong buttons now. Bear with me just one moment, everyone. Ba, ba, ba. Let me just get in. Okie dokie. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Those of you that are coming back at the very least. Just getting you set up over here as well so that I can see all of your comments and you don't have to see my face quite so big in the screen. So bear with me. Right. I'm hoping that you can all see me all okay and you're ready to get going. Let me just turn that vibration off because that's going to be annoying otherwise. Okay, so today I'm going to teach you some sign-along signs, all related on where shall we go. So these will be things like venues or places that you can go and visit together and have a great day out or a little trip, which is great actually. Granted, we've just had the Easter holidays, but with the summer holidays and half terms and things coming up, these are going to be some great signs that you can learn together. As always, I'm going to start off with our key skills so that you know how to perform our signs. Signalong use a full total communication system. So we use our speech, our sign, our facial expressions, our body language, and a whole plethora of things that we can offer using our entire body to be able to sign to those who need it. It's not necessarily for those who are deaf, or deaf, I should say. It's more for those that have learning disabilities or impairments or are non-verbal and require some form of communication. So you might be able to hear and understand and comprehend perfectly fine, but you might not be able to communicate that back out. So these are great little signs that you can learn together to keep some form of communication going. Communication, after all, is the key to many things in life. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to whiz through our key skills. As I said, they are the key to unlocking every single one of our signs. Once you have learned these skills, you don't technically need to have an image or a sign description in front of you. I could read out the description to you and you should be able to perform that sign, something that makes Signalong very different to other signing systems. We also have a one sign per concept and one concept per sign policy. That means that you don't have the same sign for bed that you do for sleep, because with somebody who has autism or other learning impairments or special educational needs, is that the comprehension might not totally be there. We don't want to say to our children, our friends, or anybody that needs their assistance that they can only go to sleep in their bed or they can only go to bed to sleep. That's not true. We go to bed to watch TV if we want to. We might sleep in the car on a long journey. People with autism especially don't necessarily understand that and will force themselves to only ever sleep in their bed. And we don't want that. That's not natural. That's not, the way that we want things to go. So I'm going to teach you all of these skills and things, and hopefully you'll be able to follow along and keep learning with us. Every day, as I said, throughout April, we've had a different set of vocabulary that you can learn. And we're hoping that you're enjoying all of our videos so far. We're hoping that once our birthday celebrations for April are over, we might actually be able to come back and do more of these lives with you if you enjoy them. So please let me know if you enjoy them and if you want more and what type of videos and things that you would like as well. TikTok is fun for all of the jokey sort of things as well, but we really want to get that awareness and that learning out there as much as possible. So yeah, let us know, keep me updated. Okay, so my name is Maxine. I am the office manager here at Signalong. And today, as I said, I'm going to show you the key skills and then we're going to learn some signs from Where Shall We Go poster and potentially also the transport poster. So not only will you know where you're going, but you'll also learn how to get there as well. So stay with me and we'll get going. Okay, so the first principle you need to know, I'm going to step back just a little bit, but let me know if you're having problems hearing me, is to learn about our placement. We have an invisible frame around us when we're performing our signs, known as our signing window. That takes place just above our heads here, comes out to the side, all the way down to just below our waist. This is where all of our signs will take place. Some might be up in the top of the signing window, some might be in the bottom, some might be at the very edges, but some can also be in the middle too. So keep an eye on that. We say also as well to have a working and a supporting hand when performing our signs. So we don't refer to them as our left and our right hand, or, you know, this hand, that hand. We have specifics, our working hand and our supporting hand. We usually say that your working hand should be your most dominant. So for me, I'm right-handed. So this will be my working hand, and you will see that most of my signs that I perform are actually done with my right hand, and then my left hand will be my supporting hand, which pops in every now and again. Most of our signs will start with your working hand, and once you listen to me reading out the descriptions, you'll see why that's important. Once you have determined your working hand, keep consistent with it. If you don't, you run the risk of changing the context of signs. Some are quite similar, some can have quite the opposite meaning as to what you're trying to portray, so bear that in mind. Choose your working hand, the one that you usually grab things with the most, your go-to dominant hand, and stick with it and maintain that consistency throughout. If you find that you get going and actually that working hand doesn't quite work for you, absolutely fine, change it, but then stick with that. Don't keep chopping and changing as you go through, because it just causes inconsistency and also inaccuracy in your signs as well. So, as I said, my working hand is going to be my right hand, my supporting hand will be my left hand. Don't worry if this is mirrored to you, it doesn't matter. As I said, just pick one and stick with it. So, I'm using my manual so that I can get everything completely correct for you. Just because I do this every day through April, I'm getting myself in all sorts of knots and twists and things, so I don't want to confuse anybody. So, going to talk about our hand shapes. We have an acronym called HOP to move. That stands for hand shape, orientation, placement, and then movement. They are the key skills of all of our signs, like I said. So if you can remember that HOP to move saying, hopefully you'll be ingrained to sort of, okay, what's my hand shape, what's my orientation, where is my placement, and then does it move? And you should be able to keep up with the consistency of our signs all the way throughout. So I'm going to begin with our hand shapes. This might be quite long-winded. It should only be about 5 or 10 minutes or so, but stick with me, because the accuracy of getting your hand shape correct means that you can perform our signs correct as well going forward. So just bear that in mind. These are also at the start of all of our videos. As we said, we do a live on a different platform every single day. And then on Friday, we bulk upload all of the videos from the week so that you don't miss out on any of them. So if you missed this bit today, don't worry. You can rewatch the video tomorrow when it's reposted again across all social media, and just skip to the bit where you're going to be learning our skills, or to the signs, or watch the whole video throughout. So I'm just going to have a quick look. Imani, it's not BSL, we are Signalong. Our signs are based on BSL, and where possible we use unaltered BSL signs, so you'll find that some of them are quite similar, but it's a sign language for those who have autism and other cognitive or learning disabilities or impairments. You can absolutely imply this to people who use BSL though, and they won't laugh at you or not understand what you're saying or what you're trying to say, because the system is very similar. It's just that we break ours down in a separate methodology that's consistent all the way through, and our system is in spoken word order, whereas BSL isn't. and BSL is really quite complex to people who have learning disabilities who might not be able to follow along. So yeah, we're very similar, but we're not quite the same. But yes, I am live and I am going to teach you some basic signs today that you can use and you can follow along. So please share it with people who you think might be interested as well, and we'll get going. So our hand shapes. I have to teach you these, as I said, to get the consistency and the key skills, so stick with me. We have a flat hand. Our flat hand is exactly that. It's completely flush, flat, no kinks, no curves, no gaps between any of our fingers, just a nice solid flat hand. From there we can stretch all of our fingers and our thumb wider apart, and this then becomes an open hand. We then bend those fingers and thumb in, and this is a clawed hand. Go back to our flat hand and just bend those fingers over, so at a 90-degree angle, and this is then a bent hand. Take that bent hand and just turn it over and slightly curve those fingers round, and imagine you've got a little pool of water in there that you can't let any escape at all. This is then a cupped hand, so a nice cupped hand. From our flat hand, we bend all of our fingertips to meet our thumb tip, and I'll come in nice and close for you so you can see, and this is a bunched hand, so bunch all of those fingers with that thumb tip. Getting my F's and my TH's around the wrong way. And this is then a bunched hand. Go back to your flat hand, bend those fingers all the way down. Don't tuck anything away. We want to see all of those fingernails and keep that thumb out. So tucked up against the side of your hand, but nice and visible. This is then a closed hand. A closed hand and a fist look very similar. Two ways to tell the difference. A fist, you'll tuck all of those fingernails away and you'll use your thumb to lock them all in. So a nice tight fist. And then a closed hand, we want to see every single one of those pretty little fingernails that you've got there. So a closed hand, tuck everything away, is a fist hand. We then have a C hand. So from that fist, extend that index finger and that thumb, create a nice curved shape. And this is a C hand. Don't worry that your C shape doesn't look like a C to you. It might if you're left-handed, but for me as a right hand, it doesn't. And it's not supposed to. You're just looking for the shape and not the letter. So a C hand. You'll then create a full C hand by bringing all of those rest of the fingers to be in line with your index finger and keeping that really nice curved shape for a full C hand. We then have an O hand, so tuck those other fingers away, keep your index and your thumb out. Keep that to a nice round shape and then just extend those other fingers. So we're like in the sign for OK, and that's like a generalised sign. So nice circle shape there for an O hand. A full O hand, you simply tuck those fingers in line with that index, but don't bunch them together with your thumb. It's only your index finger that makes contact with your thumb tip. But as you can see, it keeps that nice round shape there for a full O hand. We then have an M hand. So take your index, middle and third finger, bunch them all together, keep that little finger tucked in with your thumb, and an M hand. Kind of looks like the letter M, if you imagine it. A nice M hand. For an N hand, tuck that ring finger away, that third finger, and just your index and middle fingers visible, and together, an N hand. From there, I've got hiccups, sorry. From your fist hand again, just extend that index finger and hook it over slightly. And this is an R hand. And I will come closer so you can see. Everything is all tucked away, but I've just hooked that index finger over for an R hand. So a nice R hook. We then have a V hand. So take your index and your middle finger and just extend those and spread them apart for a V hand. Does what it says on the tin, looks like a V. So a V hand. So there are 16 basic hand shapes, that we then have 10 additional hand shapes. So from where we left off, we're going to take our open hand, bend our ring, index and middle finger down, keep that thumb and little finger extended. And this is a Y hand. If you look at it, it kind of resembles a Y shape, but that's a Y hand. We're then going to take our fist and just extend our index finger, and this is an index hand. Nice and simple, an index hand. We then have a thumb hand, so just extend your thumb and tuck everything else away, like a good, well done, good. A thumb hand. We then have a little finger hand, so from our fist, just extend your little finger, so like this, and this is a little finger hand. We then have an open pinched hand, so take our index and our thumb and just keep them parallel together, but nice distance apart there for an open pinched hand. We then have a closed pinched hand, which is exactly what it says on the tin, and just close it together. A closed pinched hand. We then have a parallel bent hand, so take your flat hand, bend those fingers over, just bring that thumb in line to be parallel with your fingers, and this is a parallel bent hand. Extend those fingers up slightly, keep everything in parallel as you can. It's a parallel flat hand. We then have an L hand, so take that index finger and your thumb, extended, an L hand. And then last but not least, a tucked hand. So take your thumb, your index finger, just wrap your index finger over your thumb, and I will show you a bit closer. So take your thumb, wrap that index finger over, and this is a tucked hand. Just remember that. Okay, from there we're then going to move on to our orientation. Orientation is a combination of palms facing and hands pointing. What I mean by that is wherever your palm is facing and wherever your hand is pointing. I'll get to that part in a second, but we're going to talk about the palms facing at the moment. Our palms face in 6 directions: in, out, up, down, forward and backwards. So they can, imagine your your signing window that you have there. Till I've got work on the brain. Imagine that middle line down the centre there that's invisible. Take your hands, palms facing in. This is then the sign for big. So the sign for big is simply this. We then can have our palms facing out, like in the sign for poorly or ill. It's the same sign. So our palms facing outwards for poorly or ill, whichever you fancy. We can then have our palms facing up, like in the sign for today. So they're facing up towards the top of the signing window, so today. We then can have our palms facing down towards the floor, like in the sign for chair. So that one again is chair. Keeping those fingernails nice and visible, chair. They can then face, our palms can then face forward, so ahead of ourselves as the signer, like in the sign for so the sign for stop. It can then face back towards ourselves as the signer, like in the sign for love, which is this one. So you take your one hand on the top for love. Our hands can then point, and when we when we say this, we mean the part of our hand to be from the wrist to our palm knuckles. So just this section of our hand here. Bear with me. I think I've frozen a little bit, so bear with. So from our wrist to our palm knuckles, they can face in the same, point in the same 6 directions as well. So up, down, out, in, forwards and backwards. I completely lost train of thought there. So we can have them pointing in towards our sign window, like in the sign for sit. So that sign again is sit. They can then point out, like in the sign for person. So person. They can point up, like in the sign for building. So take this sign here and building. They can then point down, like in the sign for down. Nice simple sign, that one. Down. They can then point forward, like in the sign for book. So book. And they can then point back, like in the sign for me. Turn sideways so you can see that, for me. Or the same time, just with the one index finger for I, or me, whichever you prefer. We then have diagonals in our signs. So you'll see they're denoted with a slash. So that might mean that they're just on an angle, on a diagonal like this, like in the sign for house. They might be denoted, so palms in and down, pointing in and up, instead of just one or the other. So bear that in mind, but that's the sign for house. So then we have movement, and some of our sign-along signs can move, so they might not all be static. Again, they can move in the same 6 directions, in, out, up, down, forwards and backwards. So movements in would be like in the sign for boy. So it's boy. Signs can move out, like in the sign for cat. So cat. They can move up, like in the sign for up. Nice basic ones, up and then down, but up. They can move down, like in the sign for trousers. Simply just trousers. They can move forward, like in the sign for fish. I'll turn sideways so you can see that as well. So fish, just wiggles forward. Fish. A fish, the thumb is nice and flat. A shark, we need that fin, so shark. We can then have the sign move backwards, like in the sign for come. I'll do that again so you can see, so to come. They can then circle whilst they move, and they circle horizontally in and out, vertically in and out, as well as forwards and back. Some of those as well. So they can circle in horizontally, like in the sign for park. So see it circles back in for park. They can circle out, like in the sign for where. Where. Vertically, they can circle in, like in for school. So school. They can then circle out, like in the sign for sun, which I'm hoping lots of you have got plenty of today, because we've bright blue skies and that sun is shining bright today. Signs can then circle forward. So I'll turn sideways so you can see this one, but for train. Sign the word row your boat. I can do row your boat afterwards. Let me get through this bit first. If you stick with me, I might do a nursery rhyme or two at the end for you. So circling forward, like in for train. And then they can circle back, like in the sign for wait or patient. Then we have formations. So the sign might have 2 different hand shapes, but they will move together as one. So like in the sign for boat. So that again is boat. That's a little a freebie for you there. Who is it? For boat. We can then have the sign for horse. So we'll take an N hand and a V hand, but they'll move together as one for riding a horse. So horse. We then have some movement symbols, which I'll quickly just show you and go through. Malika, I'll answer that in just a second for you. Let me just finish this bit and then I'll do that because it's nice and simple. So this symbol on our sign drawings is a sign that happens in a movement that happens in a continuous movement. This one looks like a forwards and backwards movement, so like in sign for hello. This is a broken movement, so it starts and stops, like in the sign for takeaway. Because it's nearly the weekend and we all want a takeaway. This sign is a sign that moves forwards and then backwards in a continuous movement. This one here is a repeated arrow, so a movement that happens the same again. This one is a movement that starts together and moves away, so like in opposite directions, like in the sign for cat that we had earlier. We then have this one, which is a movement with a sharp emphasis, so like in the sign for sit. It's quite sharp and we want them to just sit. We then have these ones, which are probably my favourite signs, which are signs that open and close and then open again. So like in the sign for bubbles. So it opens, closes, opens and closes. So bubbles. We then have this one, which is a sign that starts open and then closes. So like in the sign for Santa or man. Santa, you need your long beard on. We then have this one, which starts closed and then opens, like in the sign for light. We then have this, which is a contact splat, which is like in the sign for jumper, where a sign physically makes contact with your body part, I suppose. So in jumper. And then our last one is a quivering hand, which is like in the sign for tree. So it can either quiver like this or just flicker like this. So for tree. Okay, so Malika, you asked, how do you sign my name is Eve? We have name signs. We say to use a combination of the letter shapes, either something about that person, or so if they like dogs, you might sign, you know, M for Maxine, and then the sign for dog, because Maxine likes dogs. Mine is another example. So my name sign is M and X for Maxine, because it's just nice and simple, and I'm the only Maxine here at Signalong. So M and X for Maxine. So you could, we say to use no more than 3 letters. So you could use the sign for E, B, E, if you wanted to. Or if there's something about Eve, you can just sign the letter E and then something about her. So maybe her earrings or her hair or something like that, a characteristic about her, or even her job. One of the examples we use is Mary, who is a nurse. So hers would be M and then the sign for nurse. So something like that. As well, pick what you think is the most appropriate, really, and then you just sign my name is. So my name is Maxine, something like that. If you want to know more, send me a message, either here on an email or on one of our other platforms, and I'll happily send you a video. If you give me some information about Eve, then I'll be able to send you a video of how to sign that, or how we would suggest to sign it as well. So yeah, that's another option. How do you sign row your boat? Right, bear with me. I'm going to have a quick look, and then I'm going to get on to some signs that we've got here for where shall we go, which include like beach, cinema, the zoo, the cafe, theme park, things like that. So bear with me. I've got my trusty iPad here, because not all of the signs, believe it or not, you remember off by heart. So bear with me. We have something called a sign library, that is free to sign up to and to join, and you get 25 searches for free. All the links and things are in our bio on here. It's just signalong.org.uk, and you can join our members area completely free, and search for all 9,000 plus of our signs. So if there's ever a sign you want to know and there's nobody there to help you for a sign along sign at the very least, you can have a look on there. So I'll quickly just show you, this is what our sign library looks like, and you can search for signs. See my ring light in there, and if I type in the word row, it will bring up all of the signs where row comes in. So if I look at the sign, this is what it will look like when you get in there. So you will get the sign description here and an image as well. So the sign for row is to use your appropriate mind. So to row your boat. Turn sideways, so row your boat. Both of your hands, when you look down at them, should look like this. So row your boat. Nice and simple. Right, I'm going to, as I said, go through some where shall we go signs from our where shall we go poster. So the first one I'm going to teach you is beach, because who doesn't want to be sat on the beach right about now? I know I do. So we are going to take our supporting closed hand, remember fingernails, palm down, pointing in, working flat hand, palm down, pointing forward, moves out along supporting forearm in a wavy motion. So from here, sorry, I'm going to go backwards the other way because I did that wrong. Beach. So again, supporting closed hand, palm down, pointing in, working flat hand, palm down, pointing forward, moves out along supporting forearm in a wavy motion. Beach. I'll do that one more time for you. So start here, nice and simple. Beach. We then have the sign for cinema. So a working open hand, palm forward pointing up, behind supporting index, palm back pointing in, and working hand quivers. Cinema. So move those fingers, shake that hand a little bit. Cinema. Have you been to the cinema since COVID restrictions have been lifted, wherever you are? I know here in the UK, I definitely have not. Actually quite enjoying being at home a little bit more, which is quite nice. The next I'm going to teach you is golf. It's not for everyone. Don't shoot me. But we all know somebody who likes golf, right? So we're going to take our working closed hand, palm in, pointing down, held in front of supporting cupped hand, or held in supporting cupped hand, palm in, pointing down. So like you've got the golf club, I can remember the word then, pointing down, formation swings to supporting side. So almost like you're hitting the ball. Golf. So again, golf. Working closed hand, palm in, pointing down, held in supporting cupped hand, palm in, pointing down, formation swings to supporting side. Golf. Oh, Tina, I'm really glad that you're learning along with us, and I hope that it's nice and easy to follow at the very least. So thank you very much. Next we have the sign for zoo. So we're going to take our pads, so these little finger pads here, of our thumb, middle and third fingers of working hand touching, index and little fingers extended, palm in, pointing up, like those shadow dogs or wolves that you used to make. Behind supporting forearm, palm back pointing in. So this is the sign for zoo. Just for some context, this on its own is the sign for animal. So just this, and it's pointing in towards yourself. So zoo. Next we have the sign for theme park. Are you a theme park lover? I'm definitely a hater, I'm not going to lie. I'm always the bag lady when we go, and I'm all right with that. The vertigo and everything else doesn't do very well. So theme park. Working flat hand, palm back pointing in front of our neck, moves forward and up in forward circles. Then flat hands, palms down, pointing forward and in, make an inward circle. So, theme park. Remember with Signalong that you need to speak as you sign. It's been proven that signing and speaking actually improves your speech. So if you've got people who are non-verbal or really struggle to communicate with you, then using Signalong is a great way to help them to produce and improve their speech, because you're getting them used to associating the sign with the spoken word. So remember to always speak when you sign. And we say to end your speech once you've finished signing as well. So you're just in there, I started the sign, theme park. That's absolutely fine. You want to be able to free yourself up to move on to the next sign. So you start the sign, theme park. Then you can move on to your next one, nice and simple. We then have the sign for calf. So, you know, a nice little calf on a weekend in the morning, or if you've got time in the week, why not? We're going to take our L hands, palms forward, pointing up, together at head height. We're going to move out a short way. Then working bunched hand, palm back, pointing up. Taps twice at working side of mouth. So, calf. This is the sign for eat, if you wanted to know as well. So, calf or cafe, however you say it. Next we have museum. So we're going to make our letter shape M, not to be confused with the alphabet. Signalong refer to them as letter shapes and not alphabet. M, then working bent hand, palm in, pointing up. So, museum. You'll see as well, when I said earlier on about my working hand and my supporting hand and making sure that you're consistent with it, when my supporting hand is not in use, I tuck it away so that you can't be confused with anything else that's going on. And sometimes you'll find I'm quite a handsy person. When I talk, I really try not to, and I have to contain myself, so I do apologise. But if I was to perform the sign, you know, museum, and I started doing this, you'll probably find that whoever is you're communicating and signing to will start to mimic you, and they will also do the same thing. So they would go, museum. But that's not the sign. The sign is museum. So you just make sure, thank you for all the likes, by the way. That's really sweet of you. So yeah, when you're just using your working hand, just tuck your supporting hand away where you can. It's just something to get into the habit of doing, and you'll see I've got no rings, no jewellery, no nothing on that can distract you from my hands and what they're doing. All little tiny tidbits of information there that you can keep sort of track of to make your signing as accurate and as clear and concise as possible. So I'll do that one more time for you. The sign for museum is working, make letter shape M, then working bent hand, palm in, pointing up. Museum. Next we have Aquatic Center. You can call this the Sea Life Center or Sea World, something like that, wherever you know you're going to. It's the same thing. So we're going to take our working open hand, palm down, pointing forward, arm moves out in a smooth movement, smooth wavy movement, so like this. Then working bent hand, palm in, pointing up, held in front of shoulder. This, as a general rule, so this sign here that we had earlier on, is the sign for building. So if you're not entirely sure of the correct sign for a name or a centre or a venue, something like that, you can just say, oh, it's the building. And you can put, so for instance, Primark. You could call it the letter shape P, building. Try not to get into the habit of doing that too much, because you might confuse that and associate that sign then with another P lettered building or something like that. So just be mindful. You might also say that, you know, it's the clothes building, something like that, just to keep it nice and simple. But Aquatic Center, working open hand, palm down, pointing forward, arm moves out in a smooth wavy movement, then working bent hand, palm in, pointing up in front of shoulder. Aquatic Center, or the Sea Life Center. Nice and simple. Next we have bowling. So we're going to take our working full O hand. Remember, just to keep your index and your thumb touching, put the rest in line. Keep that really nice round circular shape in there. Working full O hand, palm forward, pointing down, held at working hip. Moves forward whilst changing to open hand. Kind of like exactly what you do with a bowling ball. Bowling. So one more time, working full O hand, palm forward, pointing down, held at working hip, moves forward whilst changing to open hand, bowling. Next is the sign for castle. It looks and sounds more complicated than it is, but I will go through it with you. N hands, palms in, pointing up, fingers flex several times as hands move up together. So imagine the turrets on a castle. That's how we say it. So you can start quite low if you wanted to. And again, we want to finish speaking as we finish signing. So start the sign off. Castle. Again. Castle. It's quite a pretty one. Although I'll let you into a secret. My favourite sign is penguin. It's a really nice, cute one. Let me know what your favourite animal is, and I'll see if I can give you the sign for it before we end today. Next we have horse riding. So like I said earlier on with our formation, you can have different hand shapes, but they move together as one. So horse riding is one of those. So we will take our working V hand, palm back pointing down, astride, fingers of supporting N hand, palm in pointing forward. Formation moves up and down. Then formation travels forward slightly. I've got them written down on the thing just under the camera, sorry. So, working V hand, palm back pointing down, astride, fingers of supporting N hand, palm in pointing forward. Formation moves up and down, then moving formation travels forward slightly. So I'll turn this way. Horse riding. Horse riding. I love the sign for pig too, and actually that's my nickname is Pig. We have Matthew here, whose name sign is the letter shape M and pig for Matthew Pig, so he is Matthew, which we think is quite funny, but penguin is cute. Our last one on this poster is picnic. So we're going to take our working bent hand, palm forward pointing up, bends forwards from the wrist. Then working bunched hand, palm back, pointing up, taps outside of mouth. So this is basically the sign for outdoor food or picnic. I'll turn sideways so you can sort of see that. So picnic. Again, picnic. Nice and simple. I also like the sign for duck or chicken. This is his beak and his wing, so chicken. They're always good ones. I'm just going to swap my poster over and quickly show you. I'm actually going to teach you. These are what our posters look like when you order them, by the way. You get really nice clear signs that are all coloured in as well, so they look really nice on the wall, and they're A3 in size, and you can see they're slightly shiny too, so they're really hard wearing. I'm going to teach you some weather signs quickly. I won't do all of them, but I figured as the weather's nice, why not? No, it's not BSL. However, it's Signalong. Signalong use BSL signs unaltered where possible. We aren't a system that are used for deaf people necessarily. We are a signing system used for those with autism and cognitive or learning difficulties. So people who can hear and are completely compos mentis in that aspect, but might not be able to communicate. So they might have speech impediments, they might be non-verbal, they might have cognitive problems that stop them from being able to communicate as easily. So yeah, you will find that some of the signs are exactly the same as BSL, because we stick to BSL as our default format. But then we will adapt our signs to be our methodology. So like in the beginning of all of our videos from our lives that we keep posting, if you've seen any of our other videos on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, etc. TikTok don't allow me to put them on there because it's too small an amount of time. So live is the best way to do it. But we break them down to a specific methodology so that you can perform our signs consistently in the same way. But ultimately the end sign might look exactly the same as BSL. It's just the way that we word them. We also are in spoken word order, whereas BSL isn't. And for people who have learning difficulties or autism, things like that, they can't actually keep up with BSL because it's far too complex for them. So we strip it right back, and we are keyword signing. So we say that you don't need to sign the whole sentence. You can really break it down. For instance, if a child in front of you has a teddy bear and you want that child to put the teddy on a chair nearby, you could say, put your teddy on the chair. Or you could simply say, put your teddy on the chair, and point to them. You don't necessarily need to sign. You can point to the teddy, point to the chair, and as long as you speak it nice and clearly, the context and, you know, comprehension possibly there enough that they would understand without any sign. So yeah, very similar, but not quite. We are called Signalong. So I'll quickly go through some signs with you that I think are going to be appropriate for the coming few months. So we have sunny. So working index hand, palm down, pointing forward, makes a large outward circle by side of head. So sunny, or sun, which is beaming today. Not that you'd know because I'm locked in the cupboard. We then have the sign for rainbow, which is always a nice pretty one. So working open hand, palm forward, pointing in at front of supporting shoulder, moves to working side in an upward arc to finish palm forward, pointing out. So I don't know if you can, I'll have to make it a bit small. Rainbow. So just a nice rainbow. We then have the sign for hot, working flat hand, palm back, pointing in, moves across the forehead to working side. Hot. Imagine wiping the sweat off your brow and you're sat on the beach, enjoying the sun, listening to all the world going by and not working. Hot. We then have the sign for windy. So working open hand, palm back, pointing in front and to the side of your face, bends at wrist to palm down, pointing back several times. If it's really windy, you bring your other hand in and it's windy or windy. I hope that you have enjoyed some of those signs with me today. If there's anything that you want to know, any other signs that you'd like to know, please, please, please get in touch with us. We would much rather give you exactly what you are looking for. Like we did earlier on, we did the sign for pig, did the sign for penguin, sign for duck. Also taught you how to say my name is. You know, things like that we would absolutely love to do and get involved with. So send us a message, make sure you're following us, share us with people who you think might find these useful as well. Or we've got all of our videos that we've started from the beginning of this month posted already with just the signs in so that you can learn. Over on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, we have more in-depth videos as well with all of the key skills at the start of the videos. But yeah, do please keep in touch with us and keep us updated with what you would like to see. Thank you for all the likes and for the love already. And yeah, thanks everybody for your feedback. I'm going to leave you now to enjoy the rest of your afternoon. But anything you want to know, just get in touch. I'll happily send you a video your way. Join us on Monday on Instagram at 10:30. We'll be live again with a completely different set of signs. Tuesday we'll be on Facebook at 11:30 with a completely different set of signs again. Wednesdays we're live on YouTube at 2:30. Again, different signs. And then every Thursday throughout April we're here on TikTok with yet more signs to celebrate our 30th birthday this year, because we've been going for 30 years now, and we hope to be going for a whole lot more than 30 in the future. So yeah, share us, make sure you like all of our stuff, and join us again on Monday for some more lives. But from me, I'm gonna say goodbye and see you again soon. Thank you. Bye.